This week, Andrew Whitaker from Rapid7 joins us for an interview. Brad Haynes, a.k.a. Renderman, comes on the show to talk about the Internet of Dongs. In the security news this week, I can't believe we made the list. 10 must-read books for information security professionals. How not to rickroll. Hackers break stuff, but not Chrome. How Yahoo got breached. Retro hunting. A very super cyber villain. And machine learning used against you? All that and more on this edition of Paul's Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Brought to you by, the average time between being hacked and realizing you've been hacked is 1 year. Can you afford to let an intruder roam your network for that long? Can your company weather the fallout when this comes to light? Black Hills Information Security can find the bad guys in your network and train you to do it yourself. Email consulting at blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a hunt teaming engagement can help you find a persistent threat in your network. Synapsys is the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsys.com. Synapsys is the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsys.com.
And welcome to the show. But first, let me introduce you to our host, a man who secretly hopes that both the Internet of Shit and the Internet of Dongs finally meet for the Alaskan Pipeline, Paul Asadorian.
Good Lord, let's hope not. Welcome to Paul's Security Weekly, episode 505 for March 16th, 2017. As Larry said, I'm your host, Paul Asadorian. Let's see, Larry Pesci is here to my left in studio. Larry, welcome.
Thanks.
What's going on?
Same shit, different day.
On the lines via Skype, Mr. Joff Thayer is here with us. Joff, welcome to the show.
G'day, Paul. Good to be back again on this fine Thursday.
And on our Brady Bunch panel, in the middle there is Mr. Jeff Mann. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Paul? Did you survive snowpocalypse?
We did. 4 or 5 inches of snow followed by rain. It was not so spectacular.
No,
it was
not so
messy.
spectacular, messy. And now embroiled in controversy.
Oh?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and the National Weather Service did not revise their forecast downward, even though they knew for nearly 24 hours.
Really?
Because they didn't want to confuse the public.
Well, that and news channels.
We leave that to POTUS and Fox News.
Yeah.
Ooh, Mr. Jack Daniel is here with us. Jack.
What? Hello.
Hey, what's going on, Jack?
I have a bottle of Duvel and a Duvel glass, and I'm sitting in my office.
Whoa.
Ever since BrewCon, I still can't drink Duvel.
Yeah, that's why I made a point of waving the glass in front
Yeah,
of you.
it's still making me ill looking at it.
He can smell it from here, and it's making him nauseous.
Yeah, just for Paul.
A couple of quick announcements before we get started. The 10th anniversary edition of Source Boston is being held this April 24th through the 25th, the conference training. 26th through the 27th will be the conference talks. Events will be held in Boston. Courtyard Marriott downtown will be the location. Security Week listeners get a $100 discount on either the training or conference passes when you use the discount code Security Weekly. Visit sourceconference.com for more information. InfoSec World 2017 conference is being held April 3rd through the 5th at Omni Orlando Resort at Champions Gate in Orlando, Florida. I can finally say that correctly without messing that up. Security Weekly listeners, even though it's on the teleprompter in front of me, Security Weekly listeners receive 10% off the conference or World Pass using the code OS17-SW. Here talks from Kevin Johnson, Rich Mogul, Corey Doctorow, and more. Visit infosecworld.misty.com to register today. That's MISTI.com. That is definitely the wrong bio of our next guest. That's from a previous show.
Hey, Paul, I have an announcement.
And I have a quick one as well.
All right, go announcements.
Go. Go, Jeff.
So who's going first?
Jeff is.
Jeff, go.
All right. Hey, just want to let everybody know that I am likely not going to be in studio or on the air next week because I will be out in Las Vegas representing Security Weekly as an influencer at the IBM Internet Interconnect Conference.
Ooh, influencer. Nice.
I hope to influence them by getting as many people as I can to Frankie's.
That's good influence right there.
You mean you want to influence people to buy you drinks, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Just as long as we're clear. Larry, your announcement is...
Yes, I'll be at Sands Orlando in like 3 or 4 weeks. But before that, B-Sides Orlando, where I'm speaking.
And I'll be in Orlando, but we'll never be there at the same time. We might see each other in the airport.
Maybe. That's a good possibility. Yeah, because I leave like Monday or Tuesday of next week for the ICS Summit in Orlando.
Gotcha.
Where I'm teaching. And then I'm back home for like a week, and then I'm back to Orlando.
Hooray for Orlando.
Yeah.
Job has his hand up.
I have an announcement too.
No more announcements. No.
We reached our quota.
Have we really? I will be teaching SANS Sec 573, automating InfoSec for pen test professionals. No, let's see. What is the title? Oh my goodness.
I don't even know what I'm teaching. I'm teaching something.
Pen testers class.
Python for pen testers.
SANS Northern Virginia in Reston in May. It's like May 21. So there's my announcement.
Ooh, you're almost in town. We might have to get together.
Yes. And by the way, word has it, if you order a Joff Me Off at the Marriott downtown in Boston, you might actually get one.
It's true. It's a true story.
Do you know the dates of your training class, Joff?
And it's May 21st is the starting date.
This is where Paul loses control of the show.
We haven't even really started yet. Andrew Whitaker from Rapid7 has joined us today. He is a CISP, a CEH, a CEPT, a CPT, an LPT, an MCT, a CAEI, a CIC.
Are you really going to read all of them? There's 35. I counted.
Do you really have all those certs, or you're messing with us, aren't you?
I do. So I'm either really good at taking tests or I'm good at cheating, one or the other.
That's actually kind of the same.
Either way, I think you have an issue, a problem.
Because if you're good at cheating, that makes you good at taking tests. I'm just saying.
So Andrew's here with us today. Andrew authored some books, Penetration Testing and Network Defense, and Chained Exploits, Advanced Hacking Attacks from Start to Finish. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, guys.
Andrew, how did you get your start in information security?
I started out, like a lot of us getting into, building systems, network engineering, and slowly realized I was better at breaking them than I was at fixing them. And one day, somebody asked me if I could do a pen test, and I said, sure, I could try. And I'm not sure if I'm the best guy for it. And they said, well, the last guy, all he did was run this tool called Nmap. Can he do better than that? And I said, well, yeah, I sure as hell can do better than that. So I kind of took off from there. So it was about 2000, 2001. It was about 6 years into my career, and I started diving into pen testing. And from there, I got into teaching exploit courses, exploit development courses, and now I'm over at Rapid7.
So, Andrew, you wanted to talk about penetration testing. We did the penetration testing roundtable. I'm not sure if you listened to that particular segment. Was there a particular area or subject matter within penetration testing that you wanted to explore with the panel today?
Yeah, so really open to discussing, whether it be current events or research initiatives. We just came out with a paper where we did a survey of about, I think it was about 128 pen tests to see what are the top findings that we're discovering with our clients. And some of it wasn't very surprising, but it was good to finally have some actual numbers and some good quantitative data, especially breaking it down, realizing, if we break it down by vertical, break it down by company size, as I think most of your viewers would realize, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. It's all the same technology underneath. We're hacking into it, regardless of the type of company or the size of the company. But we're also discovering that, we're not getting caught, and a lot of times we're not even trying to be stealth. So,
now, Andrew, Praetorian did a similar study, which we covered last year. Were your results pretty much in line with the Praetorian study?
It did. There was a lot of similarities. I mean, we're going to start. We're still seeing the same things year after year. We're still talking about, passing the hash. We're still talking about, passwords. What's really, I think, is starting to open up people's eyes is that, going in and not getting caught, which I know to your viewers really isn't that much of a surprise. But, that's whoa.
That's a headset going flying.
I'm knocking it down. Probably should slow down on this, huh?
No, never.
Never. What are you drinking, Andrew?
I am drinking, Johnny Walker Double Black.
Excellent.
Wow, that's the way to go.
We want to have a serious talk about pen testing then.
Yeah.
So, and I find these. I've conducted informal research as well. After Josh came on, we talked with Larry, we talked with John Strand, we talked with Joe McRae. Everyone's pretty much set on like the top 5 ways in which you pretty much gain a complete foothold of the organization. Right? It mostly comes down to basically Microsoft credential type attacks, weak passwords, and not segmenting the network inside. Was your study along the similar kind of lines?
Yeah. Finding, being able to get in and pass the hash, not having the right network segmentation. What we are noticing, though, which I'm actually happy to see, as I'm sure most of you know that. So, PCI and other types of compliance is kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, compliance, mandates, getting the pen test done, but on the other hand, it's too often seen as like the bare minimum. And we're actually starting to see a shift in the industry. I'd be curious if the other panelists here are starting to see the same thing, because we're seeing a shift where, a lot of customers that year after year have been coming for compliance. Now we're starting to think about social engineering. They're starting to think about red teaming. They're starting to think about phishing and physical security breaches. And that's encouraging to see that. Be curious if others on the panel are seeing the same thing, because it's I think enough's happened to where companies are starting to recognize it's important that compliance is just the baseline.
I'll turn to our expert on that matter, Mr. Jeff Mann.
I did not mention PCI first on this book.
I know, and we're giving you the floor on this topic, Jeff. But the
door was open.
This is exciting.
I'm curious whether you think that the fact that PCI finally put out some sort of detail as to what they expect from a penetration test, and the standard now requires companies to actually produce a methodology that has a laundry list of things that they're supposed to be looking at, which really has a lot to do with how to scope the pen test. Do you think that has had any difference in the changes that you're seeing in terms of approach and what companies are asking for?
I actually don't. I think that component of it is still very much checklist. When they started to emphasize network segmentation, that started to help. But what we noticed is those that got so caught up on the segmentation, they just tried to narrow the scope as much as possible. Those that are recognizing that are really figuring out how do we get more value out of pen tests. I mean, it's the same old shit year after year. You're breaking in and you're finding the same things to finally see, like, okay, maybe we should think about, are we actually detecting these attacks? What if we add in social engineering? Can somebody be able to get in that way?
It's funny. I'm on a sort of an informal, unofficial working group that's trying to figure out how to make PCI better at the end of the day. And we met earlier today, and we were having a discussion about what should the card brands be asking companies to produce in terms of evidence that they're doing things right. Forget compliance and forget how well they're meeting the standards or checking the boxes. And we actually spent a little bit of time talking about penetration testing. And what I was suggesting is, and this is sort of dovetailing off the roundtable discussion we had, episode 500, they should be able to prove not give a pen test report that shows all their different vulnerabilities. They should be able to demonstrate how quickly they were able to detect the activity in the first place. And you mentioned that earlier, that you tend to be able to bang the pots and you're slamming all the doors and nobody notices that you're even in there. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my first book back in 2005 was about not just penetration testing, but how to detect it. Because even back then, people weren't detecting these kind of attacks. I did a attack on a bank and broke in, got creds, got accounts, got out, and went and said, did you even see what I was doing? And they said no, and that's kind of where the first book came out, but that was way back in 2005. What our research has shown is as 2/3 of the companies that we're doing pen tests for are not detecting us at all, and that's not very good. But there's a flip side to that. Then that's 1/3 of the companies are getting it right. They are detecting us, and it seems to be the number one thing that's stopping us now, which is kind of interesting to see, kind of the shift in the industry. If you remember, like back in the 90s, intruder detection systems came out, and they were kind of a compensating control. And then endpoint protection, became big, still is big. But now the big insurgents to go back to incident detection and response, not as so much as a compensating control, but really the kind of first line of defense. When we go in, we get domain admin, and a company detects it and shuts it down, and we've seen it shut down in like 30 seconds to a minute, and they detect it, they shut it down. It's like, well, let's try something else.
Andrew, what's the biggest difference in terms of defensive strategies between the 2/3 that aren't detecting you and that 1/3 that is detecting you and even shutting it down within 30 seconds?
Yeah, I think it's mentality. It's the mentality of are you trying to play catch up, or are you thinking strategically? A lot of companies are very focused on tactical, but when it comes to governance, program development, what I like to think of as kind of the more boring side of hacking and security, but those types of things are essential because that's what leads to the strategic thinking, where detection and response comes into play.
It almost sounds like we could use the term identity management when we talk about even just your example of detecting domain admin. I think a lot of that is identity management, and I think that's also something that we looked at before, as you stated, Andrew, is kind of like the boring side. Like we kind of lumped it in GRC and all that kind of stuff. But now it really is one of the strategies and then subsequent technologies that support that allow that 1/3 to be really successful and going, oh, there they are trying to get in my network.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a key point, though. And I think the onus is on the industry really to try to help companies get beyond thinking that, there's aspects of security that aren't fun. They're not sexy. Oh, do we really have to do this? Because another way of describing what you're describing, I would call it the culture. There's a culture of security. There's a culture of understanding of what really they're up against, and they're really focusing more on sort of real world. What could happen to us? It's not going to happen to us, and that's not. It's not sexy. It's not fun, but it's necessary. It's vital. And I think part of the reason why we've been spinning our wheels as an industry with pen testing for so many years is because we don't emphasize the necessary stuff. I'd go so far as to say, and we talked about this in the roundtable, penetration testing, to me, your findings should not be a list of vulnerabilities. It should be a list of essentially process failures. It's a measure of your security program and how well all the different elements of your security program are working.
Yeah,
and not simply just another way to discover vulnerabilities.
Yeah. I would add to that. It's thinking about root cause analysis. It's not just, okay, you're missing a patch. Well, why are you missing a patch? We have one customer we hack into year after year, and they're worldwide, and it's the same issues, different technology. We finally sat down with them and said, let's slow down here. Let's look at the root causes, and trying to shift that mentality, throughout the industry. That's like the root cause is not just technology. It's people, processes, programs. You can change the technology, but you're still going to have crappy passwords. You're still going to have, missing patches, and it's that shift back, which, as you said, it's not sexy, but it's that kind of thinking that I think the industry needs.
Andrew, other than sitting down with each company individually, what are you recommending, or what are you doing in your role to help companies in that 2/3 become part of that 1/3 and kind of turn the tables, in that they're not doing these things that we've all identified numerous times here on the show, numerous times in the community? How do we get people over that hump?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're combining a number of assessment types. So along with the pen test, going in and look and kind of post-mortem, working on the program development. We've seen a big, or I wouldn't say big, but we've seen an increase in purple teaming, coming in with the red team, which is always fun. You go in with the red team, and then we have our incident response team come in and look kind of afterwards. What were the indicators of compromise, and what can we do? And really presenting the mentality that it's not about you're secure or not secure, but it's about where are you at with your overall maturity, and okay, how long did it take you to detect us this year? Can you map back exactly what we did to break in? And then how does that compare, say, with last year? Are you improving over time? And I think, we can almost see our, when you're in the boardroom presenting to C-levels, you can see the C-levels taking that really big, deep breath of okay, it's not about if we're good or bad. It's about, are we improving?
Yes.
Are we at the maturity level that we need to be? So providing those kind of metrics, we found has been at least the start to a conversation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things that I think my kids or my oldest daughter is learning going through karate. The instructor says every week that it's not about having the perfect kicks and the perfect punches and the perfect form, but it's that every week you get better. So that every time you do a test, you get better at something. And I think that's really key.
I like that.
Well, or just learn your lesson, or have a takeaway. Have something stick.
Yep.
I still feel
that you can apply to getting better next time.
I still feel like, though, that there's a lot of fundamental things that companies aren't doing that we're exploding in pen testing that, some companies might get better. Some might get better in certain areas. But I feel like there's a lot of fixable things that just we're not moving the meter far enough or fast enough for these companies to catch up. I mean, we're talking about attacks that have been around for a while that we've all agreed as pen testers are using.
And maybe even not necessarily an attack that's been around for a long time, but just making the attack that we would have done before that took a long time easier. I think about password spraying externally. Finding Citrix or VPN and pulling down a bunch of accounts from OSINT and then doing password spray for really simple passwords externally and getting in. And then once we're in, that their what's formerly soft chewy interior is really well hardened, and they're seeing everything that we're doing internally. But the fact that we did the password spray externally and they had no idea when we were in.
I do feel like, and you can haze me for this, but I feel like two-factor authentication is not that difficult today, and it certainly deals with the issue of password spraying that you're talking about. Larry.
Absolutely. Until you have that special flower that can't have his two-factor or her two-factor because they're special.
There are no special flowers.
Oh, there are.
You know as well as I do that there are special flowers.
It's going to be our new T-shirt.
You know what?
There's no special flowers.
What I find interesting too, and I don't think anyone has touched on this, is how much time we spend at Black Hills doing pen testing and not even using software exploits anymore. How much of it is just legitimate protocols, legitimate stuff? I actually don't remember the last time I used an actual software vulnerability and exploit. It was all about really exploiting humans and processes.
What is that? What is you giggling like a little schoolgirl?
Because Joff was talking, and every time I sent a message, it made his Slack channel beep.
Oh, turn your sound off the Slack channel.
I'm that guy.
Thanks for that, Larry. I love you, man.
I do that to our guys all the time when we're on conference calls, even with customers. Like if I find out who it is that's their IRC client or something is dinging, I start sending in the messages. One of our guys, every message that comes into IRC, regardless of whether or not it's for them or not, dings.
Now, Andrew, is your group or others within your company doing research into some IoT things? I remember seeing some headlines lately. That's like a big thing. I know I've seen IOActive and others also doing research. Still continuing in that area of IoT security. Dare we delve into that topic as well?
Yes. We're doing a lot with IoT, and we're also in the last year or so been getting into hacking transportation. Planes, trains, automobiles, and that's been
a great movie,
a lot of fun.
By the way.
So yeah. Everything from helicopters to entertainment systems.
Now, are these under contract? Are these under contract with the manufacturers of planes, trains, and automobiles, or is this just you're like going and acquiring said airplane or train
research.
And doing it independently, or is this done in collaboration with
both?
Or a mixture?
Yeah, both. Yeah, both. Yeah, I actually got a guy at one of our guys is at a junkyard as I speak, collecting parts for us to do research. So both for client engagements as well as for research.
Excellent.
And in terms of like making the world a better place, like what are you discovering and how is it being addressed?
It's in the sense of IoT. It's a lot of the same things. You're finding default credentials, and really with IoT, you have to look at the whole ecosystem. We have most of the time with IoT, you have the device itself. So pulling off the firmware, reverse engineering it, seeing if there's weak cryptography, and then you have the protocols themselves, which may be plain text or maybe easily reversible, and then you have the interface, which a lot of times end up being web-based. So you find a lot of the same kind of web-based attacks, your cross-site scripting, your cross-site request forgery. On the transportation side, when you connect in and if it's CAN bus, a lot of times it's like you're going back to hubs, like back in the 80s and the 90s. It's unless they have that kind of segmentation in place, it's just plug into the OBD port and it's, listen in, game over, and packet injection.
Yes, it is.
Larry, did you have questions along those lines? I know you've done some of that research.
So Can you tell us about some of the tools that you're using for CAN bus, and specifically, and I'm trying to remember it, that there's a new Kickstarter campaign that just came out for some new CAN bus tools. Have you seen that
really?
one?
I have not, but I know what I'm looking at tonight. So,
Let me see.
yeah.
Let me see if I can find it right now.
yeah. I actually just spent, I think I just spent about $200 on Kickstarter in the last couple of days, and I can't believe I didn't see that. So,
Yeah, so there's the CAN bus triple, which I have, and I will say that I'm not particularly, I don't know, fond of.
You're getting old and curmudgeon.
I know. Well,
You used to be excited about everything.
well, I'm still excited. I was super excited about it when I got it because I got two.
If you can't get excited about everything, try some Viagra.
Oh, I didn't say I
Thanks,
couldn't get
Jack.
excited about it. It's just maybe execution. Maybe I still need that Viagra.
You're curmudgeon.
Either way, I ordered it, and I'll have to see if we can find it. But there's a new Kickstarter project out there for doing some CAN bus stuff. Looks better than the CAN bus triple stuff. So, quote, on the open source side, looks fascinating.
yeah. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to stop by and what did I just sponsored a Kickstarter for a fidget pen for
a pen.
fidgeting. It's a pen that you can fidget with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was looking at some of those the fidget cubes the other day, and the real fidget cube guys don't even have their real product out yet, and there's already Chinese knockoffs. It's unbelievable.
That's the dangers of bringing something like that to market,
Yep.
even on Kickstarter, especially on Kickstarter, I should say. So, Andrew, what's the the goal of the automotive research? Are there initiatives underway? You working with the I Am the Cavalry movement to, basically help regulation and other governing bodies? I mean, sure, they're aware of the problem, but how do we make sure that our cars are secure?
Yeah. So we have Craig Smith on our team, and he's actively involved in trying to educate the community. We find a lot of the times, both with our client engagements as well as with some of our research, it is about educating. It's kind of like the conversations that we've had with industrial control systems, going back, as soon as those started to integrate into Active Directory, it's kind of those same conversations that we're having now when manufacturers are running, Linux under the hood, and they're having to be educated all over again because they're hardware engineers. They haven't had to have these conversations. So Craig Smith is active, and we are certainly active with some of the discussions going on. I'm not, so I can't really speak to what others are doing, but we are trying to go out there and educate people. To me it's reminiscent of what you saw with SCADA and ICS once that started to get integrated with Active Directory, and people had to be educated all over again about IT security.
Mm.
So on a similar note, you say you've got a guy in a junkyard going and picking up stuff to do some car exploration, but planes, trains, and automobiles, how difficult is it to get hold of hardware for planes and trains?
Good question. Trains has been a little difficult.
I can imagine.
Planes, we actually have a couple guys who have their amateur or the pilot's license, whatever the first level is. So that's actually a little bit easier, but yeah, trains is a bit harder. We do have clients in that space. But at the end of the day, technology is the same. Even when they're using proprietary protocols, if it's out in the clear, you look to see if it's a 1 or a 0, and when you do a 1, a light goes on. So you do a 0, it goes off, and then you just take it from there and figure out, okay, what's actually happening here.
Andrew, you have authored some books. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, I've authored a few. My most recent was chained exploits, and really looking at how do you chain exploits together. When I started to work on that book, the publisher came to me and he said, well, "This is some scary stuff. We can't be putting this in. It sounds like you're encouraging people to go out." So I had to create a fake character called Phoenix, who went in, was hacking politicians and hacking. What else? Oh, yeah, I think he went into the hospital once and killed somebody at a hospital. But walking through that, and it actually came out of a DEF CON talk I did, which wasn't really anything novel at the time. It was called like how to spy on your boss. But it was showing that that's chained exploit approach, and people found it interesting. So I thought, let me put together a bunch of stories on it.
So give us an example of how you chain exploits to spy on your boss. Not that we encourage that behavior, but
Right, considering Paul's employees are in the other room, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and similar to, I think, really any attack, you can start out with phishing, getting somebody to go to a link, grab their creds, especially if you can get them to go to their personal email, and from there, drop some malware into memory and keyloggers, and taking it from there. You were mentioning the two-factor authentication earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Usually every quarter, we're getting around that, and it's a lot of it tends to be that out of all the things, OWA is not enabled. Everything else will be. And if we can, we'll do the OSINT, we'll grab down the accounts, we'll spray it, and once we get in the email, then it's just a matter of going back to when the person started, figuring out how to register for multi-factor authentication, and walking through those same steps to, re-register or to register someone new. And then at that point, going through the VPN portal or what have you. So that's another common technique that we're doing is just going into people's emails.
I want to explore that technique. And we're aware of the shortcomings of OWA, either not having two-factor authentication enabled or there being vulnerabilities which allow you to bypass two-factor authentication, which we've talked about on the show. I think it was Bo Bullock that did the research from BHIS on that. So let's say I have access to that person's email account. I go back to day zero, so to speak, in their email. And then now are you figuring out how they registered for an account and then mimicking that to basically become a new employee at the organization?
We've done it both ways. We've done that approach, as well as there's been times where we just go back through the process, and we've even the password reset. So a common technique might be once we're in a person's emails, we'll actually create a new rule that anything sent in from, say, IT or another system will go directly to the delete folder, just in case somebody's looking in the emails. We don't want them to see any of this traffic. So we're sending emails out, and we're going through a password reset function, or in some cases we're trying to create a new account. Usually that's not as common as either going through a password reset function or just re-registering them, going in and saying, yeah, we no longer have this phone and we need to register a new phone, and then we have our phone and get the text message and authenticate.
I see. So you're resetting their password, which requires them to also send a new phone number, because you said you lost your phone. So now the two-factor SMS message goes to the attacker's phone. But now does the original user, does their password change? And if so, how do you get around them losing access to their account if you're trying to be stealthy?
Fuck it.
Well, there's that.
We try to be quick.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, so it's be stealthy, and then once you have access, be quick about it.
Yep.
Because they're going to notice, and they're going to reset their password
Get access and pivot fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're basically building a time window in which the user realizes they don't have access, and then they're going to go reset their password again. And that could be.
That reminds me of a
do
test.
it on a Friday evening or what? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
you have the
reminds me
weekend.
very much of a test that we did many years ago in which we got access through a default system credential to an AIX system, and their operator script allows you to change the password for root.
Yep, it was awesome. Classic tales.
Lovely.
Yep. Yeah, change user password. I wonder. Username root.
So,
and enter new password. Yes, please.
Andrew, I'm assuming the survey that you did with the organizations on pen testing, that information's public. People can find it and use it to learn about what you found in your survey.
Yes, it is public. If you just Google Rapid7 and Under the Hoodie, there's also a bunch of videos from our pen testers talking about real world examples, some more stories, as well as the paper. And the paper is free, so we want to give it out to the community, and we want to get feedback. So let us know what you're finding.
And are you authoring any new books or?
No, it's a lot of work, man.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, I don't see myself doing any more of that for a long time. So maybe when I retire.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, we have to ask you 5 questions. We do. Are you ready to play 5 questions with Security Weekly?
Plus, I have a
do it.
bonus question.
Oh, okay. Jeff, why don't you do you're going to do a bonus question before or after?
Doesn't matter.
I thought he said, plus I have a boner. I'm like, congratulations, Jeff.
For a man of your age, I mean,
Those pharmaceuticals that Jack talked about. So
I think a bonus should always be at the end.
Andrew, before we get to the bonus question, 3 words to describe yourself.
Innovative, efficient, and a drinker, I guess.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Ooh, a origami dolphin. I would paper cut you to death.
That's arguably one of the most unique
Yes.
answers we've ever had.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Ooh, fucked up.
In the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
First.
Choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Alive, dead, fictional, or otherwise.
Ooh, 2 celebrities be my parents.
I hope they did that because then they'd have you.
Right.
Sorry.
That was good.
Very observant, Larry. Very observant.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 celebrities. Yeah. Paul, it'd be you. How about that?
Whoa.
Wow. Who's your daddy?
Mother or father?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Both.
Either one.
He could be both.
Either one's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul's a celebrity? Nobody told me.
it's science.
Yeah, first, who made me a celebrity?
Well, you're a celebrity in your own mind, so that counts.
Second, I was a cheerleader on Halloween once, so clearly I can play the part of either the mom or the dad.
You're asexual. You can reproduce with yourself.
I don't
It's
know
a
about
$2,000 a week
but-
habit in Texas.
But how short was your skirt?
Oh, God.
Wow. That's
I would not be in the same room as you, Joff, because you would probably hit on me.
brother.
wow.
More so than usual.
Oh my God, Andrew! I think that is probably the best answer to that question that we've ever had.
So who would be your other mom or dad?
It's got to be Jack Daniel, right?
Wow.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
We're just going to go ahead and say you were adopted, Andrew.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just let everybody picture that, right?
Yeah. I mean, whew, man.
You're right, Larry? Larry,
Yeah.
it's a moment.
No, I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, man, it's either
Don't think about it.
it's either Jack tickling Paul with his beard or
No,
Paul pulling
we're
the
not
beard.
going there. We're not going there. Pulling the plug.
or the beard.
There's people vomiting in the next room. Do you hear that?
Larry's getting a little sweaty under the collar.
Jack is just eerily quiet.
Yes, Paul, the beard tickles.
I liked it better when Jack was quiet. Andrew, thank you very much for appearing on Security Weekly.
Whoa. Bonus question.
Oh, wait, hold on. Stop the music. Bonus question.
And this is just a curiosity. Of all those certs you have, which one was the first?
My first was my Certified Nobel Administrator. I was convinced if I made it all the way to Certified Nobel Engineer, I was going to be rich and never needed another certification.
Set for life.
And that didn't work out the way I planned.
35 certs later,
Certified
you're
Nobel
still
Administrator.
working for a living.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Novell.
Somebody explain to the audience what Novell is.
It's smoke and mirrors for DOS.
That is the most
That's a
accurate
good
description of
definition,
Novell.
isn't
Yeah, but did you ever have
Did
to
anyone
route
come up with-
IPX, baby?
Hell yeah.
Oh.
IPX network C0FFEE.
Bad touch.
God, IPX.
All right, now cue the music.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on Paul's Security Weekly. We're going to take a short break, come back, and talk about the internet of dongs.